So I'm Ruth Alderton. I'm an advanced nurse practitioner here at Prospect Hospice. Part of my work is clinical, so part of it is with patients, but also partly involved in projects and a bit of research and non-clinical leadership. So the Frailty Project all came about as a result of some funding that we were successful in obtaining from Hospice UK. And Hospice UK are basically funding 11 different projects all around the country that are supporting hospices to do various different projects that help support people who have been recognised as being frail. And frailty can be for people who are any age really. It's not related to how old you are, it's more about how functionally able to look after yourself you are and the risk of you becoming less well. So if you're frail, generally you have more risk of becoming unwell and are less able to look after yourself. The vast majority of patients prefer to stay in their own home because they're in their own setting, they've got their family around them, they're in familiar surroundings, they know exactly how far away the toilet is. If they're having difficulty mobilising, it's easier for them to walk to the bathroom, they can eat and drink what they want. They're just more comfortable. I think we all know that we're generally more relaxed as human beings in our own home than anywhere else. So it's the same with people not wanting to go to hospital. It's really all about just coming alongside them, getting to know them and what they already know and understand about their condition, because often, well, the patients are often the expert on their own health and condition, and the vast majority of the time they'll already have an understanding of the fact that they are less well and that their condition is not something that can be cured, sadly. So it's really just about opening it up gently and giving them the opportunity to say what they want and maybe prompting them. And it's not all doom and gloom. We try and sort of talk about parallel planning, so hoping for the best but also planning for the worst at the same time, and kind of just acknowledging that uncertainty, which does take a bit more time than just going in with a very optimistic, hopeful attitude, but ultimately it's much more beneficial for the patients because it's much more open and honest.
My name's Anna-Lee. I'm a trainee advanced nurse practitioner. I work with Hospital at Home for Great Weston Hospital and I work out in the community. I've always worked quite closely with the Prospect, and the opportunity to work collaboratively with this project, I think, has only highlighted the need for more work to focus on courageous conversations with our patients in the community. So by having the referral to Hospital at Home, it means we can go and see them at home and open those conversations of actually what do you want from your life? Is it about quality? Where do you want to be? What are your wishes? What are your aspirations? And for a lot of people it's quality of life, and they don't want to be in hospital. So it's just about supporting that. And then by doing the advanced care planning, also embraces the family to be on board with what that patient wants. We see so many patients that unfortunately die and the family don't know what their wishes were. So by having these courageous conversations, we try and invite the family to be there when we have these conversations. So we approach very gently and just see what the patient feels their understanding is of their condition. So for patients that come in for Hospital at Home, they will either be discharged from hospital, they'll be referred in from a GP or a paramedic visiting, and sometimes they can come onto the ward and the term palliative or end of life hasn't been mentioned. And when I go and see a patient initially and I look back at their past medical history and I can see the recurrent antibiotics or the recurrent visits to the GP, or they have been treated and there are diagnoses there, but they've never had a conversation that actually this is a life-limiting conversation. So it allows us then just to start those conversations. And for a lot of our patients that we've seen, we've had the conversations, and it's given the patient the opportunity to have that conversation, park it, get on with their life, focus on the quality, and then again, as Ruth has said, it's about hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. And we find once you've had those conversations, when someone's well, it then allows them to make other planning in place. I think to have these courageous conversations, I think it's not something all healthcare professionals find easy to have these conversations. And I always try and ease into a conversation and say, my experience as an intensive care nurse has made me, has given me an insight to seeing patients in the wrong place where they not necessarily wanted to be. And I think finding that common ground with the patient, and you can, when you start getting to know your patients, you get to know where they'd like to be. And if you feel home is where they want to be and they haven't had any advanced care planning conversations, you just know it's a conversation that needs to be had.
My name's Sophie Hortin and I'm the Frailty Project Nurse for Prospect. It's important to have these conversations purely because it allows the person to make informed choices around what's important to them as their lives are approaching the end, and actually managing a quality of life that is less burdensome of symptoms and actually spending less time in medical institutions. Having had those conversations and have gone through that experience myself, I know it helps with the grieving process too. So as someone comes towards the end of their life, by telling their families what is right for them, and their families knowing that, it just makes treatment options or symptom control easier for the family, and coming to terms with the fact that they are approaching the end of their lives too. 4 education sessions, which we called the breakfast BAP sessions, and during those sessions we were able to talk about toolkits that can help assessing frail patients, but also recognising when someone is coming towards the end of their lives. And it doesn't mean imminently, because people coming towards the end of their lives with limiting illnesses can start at a prognosis of 10 years, because so someone with heart failure, it may be 10, 20 years, but it's still life limiting, and there'll be options all along the way. So you've got toolkits there such as SPICT, the Frailty Score and Red Map, and that helps healthcare professionals identify by certain prompts to look out for and think, actually, I can see this happening in this patient. Maybe it's time to actually look at advanced care planning or talking about a respect form and resuscitation. And also by the team coming to the hospice, what it's done is dispelled some of the fears around what hospice is, and they recognise now that it's not just about dying, it's about living until the end of your life.
So we'd hope really that we've just sort of opened up the conversation about what needs to happen. Certainly there's other, momentum is growing nationally with reports that have gone to Parliament about various different things. So there's an awareness generally that there's this massive gap, and that we need to start talking about dying a lot better. I mean, it would be amazing if suddenly some more funding appeared from somewhere to help carrying on having another project nurse and be able to sustain the project in that way. There is still some funding available, so with that we're making plans to work alongside the hospital clinics with their specialties, different specialties. But yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if more money were available and we could continue, because we've been able to see what a fantastic impact it's had.
The difference we have made, and I think working with Sophia, I think in the time the project's been running, we've had 112 contacts. We've noted 16 of those, 16 of the referrals that have come through to the Prospect, 6 patients have gone on to die with advanced care planning and Prospect input. So I think it just speaks volumes about the difference we can make to our patients' lives.
The Frailty Project, I believe, if it continues, can help healthcare professionals recognise when to maybe commence these conversations, but these conversations do need to start earlier, and we need to be thinking about them as these diseases are diagnosed, so that we also change the public's perception of what is realistic and unrealistic as their diseases progress towards the end of their lives. I hope the work with the Frailty Project continues and can be seen as a stepping stone towards living and dying well with disease and frailty.